Dr. Kellyanne.
We live?
We're live.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Doctor's Night Out. I'm really excited this evening. I'm your host, Dr. Kellyanne Petrucci, where we bring you the best experts out there that have something to say. All the experts on this show are people that I know, love, and trust. Oftentimes, these are people that I've actually broken bread with. These are people who are committed to growth, always growing, always learning to serve you. These are your true truth seekers. And tonight, I have someone that has gone on a journey that really got me, got my heart. There's so much alignment between myself and tonight's guest. And it's so encased, her story, with so many take homes, so many things that we can learn and gain from her experience. I'd like everyone to meet this amazing, glittery, glowy woman, Lavinia Errico. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks.
It's so wonderful to have you. I have to start out by saying, I am so blown away when I think about everything that you've been through and everything that everyone's going to have the opportunity to learn about. And there's a lot of things that you're going to learn tonight, folks, that are going to surprise you. This is a success story that really has turned into an entrepreneur, a staunch entrepreneur who started out with one mindset, but really developed and evolved into a spiritual entrepreneur. And it's quite a story. So let me tell you about Lavinia. Lavinia was the visionary founder behind Equinox Fitness Clubs. She's which was a nationally acclaimed workplace and wellness entrepreneur and a speaker of essential truths on the subjects of value-driven entrepreneurship, developing next generation leadership, the women's led workplace, spiritual entrepreneurship, keeping the soul in success, the habits of success, building your brand, cultural shifts, and the joy in the hustle. Oh, I love that. A sought after board member, consultant, and angel investor in diverse startup companies across a multitude of industries, Errico inspires and transforms individuals and organizations with her unique and often disruptive take on how to create a richer, more authentic, inspiring, and joyful career, and most importantly, life's journey. So, I love your journey, and here's something for our listeners. You grew up in Hackensack, New Jersey.
Yes, I'm a Jersey girl.
You are a Jersey girl, and you are an Italian girl, just like me.
Love that.
I love that, and you certainly have the spunk that, I know that's kind of embedded in our DNA. And back in the 1980s, you had such an interesting experience because you and your brothers decided that, we are going to do a 180 to all of these New York happy hours. We want to do something different. And you rolled your sleeves up and said, we are going to do everything we can. We're going to get a hustle on, and we are going to earn enough to open up a fitness club, because that's what we see. That's our vision. That's what we see should be going on at 4 or 5 o'clock. Not all the happy hour stuff, but something different. So you did. You and your brothers end up opening up this club. And if anyone knows anything about Equinox was huge. You open up your first one, it blew up. And it's funny because you never quite know what's going to hit. You just don't. You have a vision, you're an entrepreneur, you go in, and who would have guessed that Equinox would have created the movement that it did? Many, many were opened up, and you ended up selling your business, and you walked away with, millions and millions. So we're going to talk about this, but let's start at the beginning. I was a born entrepreneur, so I get this. And I don't even know, Lavinia, if you know this about me, but it's in my genes. I couldn't be anything else if I tried. It's so embedded in my DNA. And I used to go to my father's barbershop every day after school. That's how it started. Every day after school, I'd sweep the floor. I would do whatever. He ended up putting bowling balls in the window of his shop, which ended up being a sporting goods store. He would drill the balls. I would clean up all the shrapnel. And this was my entire life. I did not go to friends' house after school and play. That was not my life. My life was, ended up polishing trophies, sweeping up the hair from the barbershop, all of this. You have a very similar story because you helped your father in his store as well. And that kind of led your path to what we know now. So tell us about that and how everything started.
Well, first of all, yes, but we're six children. And my mom had, you'll appreciate this, my mom had 5 kids in 2.5 years. Because yes, two sets of twins. So I'm a twin, and then we have a brother a year younger, and then 2 twin sisters a year younger, and then our youngest sister. And, really, she couldn't handle, when we weren't in school, she couldn't handle all 6 of us at home. So it was always like, we're going to send the 3 big ones. That was myself and my 2 brothers. They're going to work with dad.
Yep.
And, where most kids would be like, no way, I don't want to go to work. I want to stay home and play or whatever. To be honest with you, Kellyanne, I got butterflies in my stomach the night before I went to work with my dad. My dad owned delis, and I just loved going in there. First of all, I love people. Like, I am so a people person. And my father's delis were in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. And these are the most colorful people that you could imagine. I mean, there was like a methadone center across the street. So there were all these like drug addicts that were walking in, and there were prostitutes walking in, and I just loved it. I mean, I would just sit there as they would walk in and be like, just mesmerized by the texture and the way they dressed and just everything. I mean, there wasn't a thing about it like that I wasn't curious about. And I just loved working in my dad's store. I just loved the energy. I liked the whole thing. It really felt good. Like, I remember learning how to do the cash register and then giving out the change, and how
math is a big deal.
It was such a big deal. I mean, I really realized, like, that's how I learned math.
Me too.
Like, you just learned. And I think that experience, and it also is confidence. When you're a young kid and you're like 8 years old, and you're having to deal with adults and take money from them, exchange, and then make things for them. Like, talk about confidence, because that's how you build a young person's confidence, right? By them doing and having mastery in what they do. And then it's like, you feel so good about yourself. Like, you're so inspired. So for me, it was like, I loved that. I loved going to work with my dad. I liked the whole thing about it. And then that just continued, I mean, we definitely were very blessed, but we had to work. If I wanted these little red platform shoes in 7th grade, like, I had to earn the money for those shoes.
Aren't you so grateful for those opportunities, though? I have to tell you, and like you, it was joyful for me to have that backpack and walk from school to the barber shop and to work. And then as it transitioned into this sporting goods, to wrap the trophies, to work on with the customers, to figure out the cat, that truly is what does make you very different. And it does make you see things different. And it really does pivot you in a different way. And I think a lot of what you learned there probably gave you the skills you needed to start Equinox.
I think it gave me the skills in everything in my life. There wasn't anything, like, I was the person who, I remember being at a gym. I was 14 years old, sneaking into, it was called European Health Spa. It was in Paramus, New Jersey. And the teacher didn't show up. And I said, I'll teach the class. Mm-hmm. And the woman that worked there is like, Lavinia, you're not even really supposed to be in this place. You're too young. And I was like, and she's like, and you're going to teach it? And I was like, yeah, but I practice in my living room all the time. Like, I have this class down. And she's like, she looks at me and I'm like, I do. Just give me music and I'll teach it. And you know what? At 14, I went in there and I taught it.
It's exceptional. That's
exceptional. A spirit. It's like your spirit is just, and I think so much in my life was like that, like just this openness to try things. I didn't have that fear of like, oh my God, I'm not going to know what I'm going to do. I'm going to embarrass myself. That was where my mom was amazing. Like, my mom was a very strong woman, and she really was like, if you put your mind to it, there isn't anything you can't do. You just have to put your mind to it. It was all about the mind. You have to have the right mindset. And
and that's amazing. And it makes, and like, my family, it always was the 6 inches between your ears is everything.
everything.
It doesn't matter what you have, it's always that 6 inches, and it's the same thing. And I think that the lesson here is, the words that we choose to say around our children. I mean, that really does embed something in your DNA that really does carry with you.
Yeah.
It does. That's in your backpack. But here you did all of these things, and you work with your father. You open up this Equinox, and then of course it becomes this ginormous success. You walk away with millions. But tell me what happened, because you thought, who wouldn't? I think to myself, oh my gosh, you must have been absolutely thrilled. That must have been the end all be all. Everyone must have had, green with envy that, your life is now set. You are done. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind. Well, you're done now. You've cashed out. This is going to be 4th of July every day. Every day is going to be celebration, excitement. That's not exactly what played out. Tell us what happened.
No, on the contrary, that isn't. When we first sold, I remember we all went, a whole big group of us went to Cipriani's, and we celebrated, and everybody kept walking up to me and going, oh my God, Lavinia, can you believe it? Can you believe it? And I was just like, it just hasn't hit me yet. Because again, like you said, I was expecting this elation, this feeling of like everything, even this water was going to taste completely different when like there were tons of zeros in your bank account. And that went on for like 3 months. Like I kept waiting for that feeling of just pure joy, pure excitement, and it actually kept going down. And I woke up one morning and I thought like, wow, I have never been so lost. I've never been so alone. And I've never been so unclear on who I am, because I didn't have, I was the person that had, 200 things on her to-do list. And I'm also a person that's always about creating. And all of a sudden now there was like nothing to create.
And I don't think people realize, like, when you're building something, especially building something as big as you do, what the girth that it takes, what it takes from you, it's 80% of your focus. I'm sorry, it just is. It has to be. It's such a big part of your focus. And then selling a business, for those of you who don't know, selling a business is like an additional job. It's a long process. So if you think about it, for years, how many years did it take you to develop Equinox?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely probably had because we had opened a gym before that outside of the city. So we had that going for, by the time we opened it, and did that for about 1.5 years. And then we were kind of forming Equinox at about the same time. So, I mean, it was definitely a good 3 years before we opened, where we were working on the whole thing and getting it open. So, and then, we had it for like 10 years. So it was a good 13 years of like you said, to the grind every single day, 24/7. I mean, I had a tape recorder at the side of my bed. And when I would wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, I didn't want to forget it. And I was literally just taping myself saying what it was, because you just never knew when these ideas were going to be.
You've got to grab them. You've got to grab those creative implants when they come.
Exactly. And it's like that. I mean, you're in it, you're grinding, you're downloading new stuff. I mean, it's like you're keeping your staff inspired and going. I mean, I'm just so lucky that I did it with my brothers, because, there's like what people don't realize about Equinox. It's like there's so many different businesses inside of it. Like, so my one brother, who was like unbelievable and still is to this day with real estate, real estate development and the financing and the money and all of that, like he was able to focus on that, a good part of the time. And truly that's what he loved. And my other brother, who was just a genius at building and creating the most beautiful, innovative spaces. And Equinox was so known for that. I mean, we were in all the architectural digests and things, and that was my brother doing that. So it was like, and there were some things that crossed over, of course, but for the most part, we were able to do what we loved and keep going and doing. And, so when you have that synergy and you have 3 people that are all like doing things that they love to do, But it's still a lot. Like you are just going 24/7. You don't stop. Like that machinery is not stopping. It's almost like you're afraid to have it stop. Because if you stop, you're afraid you're going to like pass out or something.
It's true. It's really frantic energy. And I want everyone to know this about you. There was, before Equinox came out, before this woman here, and I don't know if people know this about you, she actually created the whole vision behind a wellness and a gym. So before Lavinia came around and did the creations that she did, we thought of a gym was, the meathead place. It was a place where it was, and you created this whole different atmosphere, which, really is what everyone else trades off of that concept, that idea that you created, which is you really made a wellness center. And so,
I think we made it wellness. I think we also made it, like, when I really look at it, it's kind of also like, it was also a social club. Like today we have all these social clubs. We have the Soho House and stuff like that. But really in the beginning, Equinox was all of that. Like it was that social club, it was a place where you went and you connected with like-minded people. It was a place where it was a big place to connect and meet people and, meet your tribe, so to speak, or, so it was like.
That was the first. And that was the first. But I want you to take us to that moment because again, here, she created all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's the weirdest thing. The person that I don't know if you've ever heard of Quest Nutrition, Tom Bilyeu, but he created this big company called Quest. And he talks about the day all the zeros dropped into his bank account. And it's nothing like you think. But take me to that moment. Then you're in the car. You drop your son off to school. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, he leaves the car. And you've got that moment of silence in the car where you're left to face what reality?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I walked him to school and we walked to, drop off. And I just remember walking off out of the school. And I thought to myself, like that feeling, I had not thought about that moment because we sold the company in December. We had to clean out our desks and do everything we needed to do. And then it was Christmas and we went on great vacations and we come back and he starts school the next day. And I'm like, I remember walking out of there and I was like I never thought about that moment. I never thought about that moment of like, what am I going to do? And it wasn't just, what am I going to do? It was sort of like, who am I now? Like, who am I when I'm not in this outside persona of Lavinia Equinox working woman, outside identity, like that I've had since I was literally 14 years old. Like, you're student, you're working student, you're building your career. There's always like this outside identity. And again, like, and at that point I had already been on a spiritual journey because that was the beginning of the wellness center because about 2 years into Equinox, I had a situation occur that I ended up flat on the ground. And it was like, how could I be flat on the ground? I'm in like perfect shape. And that was my realization of you can be incredibly fit and unhealthy. Oh. And I started the journey of what does it really mean to be healthy? Because trust me, it's not about those great biceps or abs that I had or the tight tush. Like that's not health. I had all that. But that journey, the next couple of years made me realize, okay, in order to be healthy, you have to be spiritually healthy, emotionally healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy. So after that excavate of that and doing all different kinds of modalities, which by the way, in those days to try to do them, you were literally going in back alleys because that stuff was not readily available. And that was when I was like, you know what? I want to bring this to the masses. Like somebody has to create this. And, Kellyanne, I remember sitting in a marketing meeting when we were trying to come up with the name for the place. And we were on the whiteboard writing all the things that it was and what it wasn't and what it was and going back and forth and trying to come up with a name. And like Equinox Longevity Center, Equinox Anti-Aging Center. And nothing was like resonating of the yes. And then somebody on the team said, well, what is the opposite of illness? And like, we were like, somebody said wellness. And we're like, wellness, is that even a name?
Wow.
Is that even a word? Like, is wellness a word? And we had to even like look it up. It was like, wellness. Like, I think to myself, dang, I should have trademarked wellness.
Well, I'll tell you, that along with everything else. But why was it so dark? Why was that moment so dark for you? Is it because you
I was so lost. Like, when you're so used to your whole identity going, moving, doing, creating, going, moving, like when you're on that merry-go-round of, you know, just building, creating, getting all of your juice, all of your energy, all of your accolades, all of your notoriety, all of your everything from outside of you, now that's like gone. Like your whole teams are gone. This is gone. You're left alone. And when you have not had that in probably ever, because I kind of joke where, you know, I came into life with a twin. And even very quickly,
Wow.
a big clan of a family, like I never had alone. You know, I didn't have that. Like now all of a sudden it was like, who am I? Like I didn't know who I was without like being this person doing. Like I was so clear that like there was a distinction between a human doing and a human being.
But don't you think that's a big problem that a lot of people have, even if that they look to the outside, they look that everything is based, and you talk a lot about this, how a lot of your identity crisis, so to speak, is because you valued things on the outside and not on the inside. And that was a lesson that you had to learn.
Yeah. And I realized like, I mean, there were so many lessons I learned out of it. I mean, I have like a 3-day workshop on that, but you know, it's really about like, and that's why I'm so passionate about what I do now, because you can bring the two together. You can have a successful career. You could be a founder and you could still be in touch with your authentic self. You know, you can still stay in touch with your soul. You can still stay in touch with the essence of who you are, you know, but you have to become conscious. You have to become awakened. You have to do some work on yourself to have the courage. And I use that word courage because it isn't always easy to really look at that, to look at what's running all that. You know, when I went down and saw what was running, it was a little insecure girl that never felt good enough, never felt validated enough, you know, never felt this enough. And I just wanted more success, because my successes got me to be recognized. And that filled me up to make me feel like I was loved.
That's always curious to me, though. I call them gaping holes. You know, I call them gaping holes, and what happens when you have those gaping holes? Other people can latch in that maybe not that aren't in your best interest, and it also makes you do to try to overcompensate. How do you heal those gaping holes? I mean, you had to really go inward and heal yourself.
Right. Well, you have to feel it to heal it.
Mm.
So if you're not willing to feel it, which most people, I mean, that's why I believe a lot of people don't do the work, because they don't want to feel that. And it's like, it's not pretty. Like when you're doing the work, like there's sometimes people will go and they'll do a workshop and then they come back and they're like all excited and they're like, oh, Lavinia, I got it. And I'm like, tell me what you got, girl. Tell me what you got. And then they tell me and they're smiling and this, and I'm like, okay, that's amazing. But inside I know they didn't get it yet. Because when you get it, you're like, oh my God. Like when you start seeing your real truth, like, because you start building that to compensate for some kind of pain that you're having.
Yes.
You know, like that's where that starts from. That's where manipulation starts from. That's where so much stuff starts from. And, you know, I hate to go to family of origin, but it's usually our family of origin, what our family valued, what they didn't value, what the culture was, what the real culture was, you know, and nobody wants it. I mean, I certainly did. And I loved my parents more than anything, but you kind of got to go back there and look at some of the stuff with the family culture, and you have to look at it and get in touch with that. And not that you have to judge it, but you have to kind of grind it out to let that go, to see some stuff about yourself. And then, yeah, and it's painful, But when you start seeing it and you take off a layer and you take off a layer and you take off a layer, it's like, oh my God, like I have, my lens is so much clearer, and then all of a sudden you start creating your own values. Like for me, I'm like, it's all about your core values. Like when you live by your core values, regardless of what, so for me, my core values are respect of self, respect of others, respect of property, and to speak my truth kindly. And when you do that, and everything else falls in there, because when you're in self-respect, then you have integrity and you have you have loyalty, because the first person you have to be loyal to is yourself. So when you really like get down to your real core values and you start living by them, all of a sudden when you start forming them, you see like, ooh, I didn't realize that I've been doing some of this stuff that I've been doing, or I didn't realize, and then you start having those realizations. And that's, it takes time. It's a process. It's a journey. But when you do it and you start doing it, because it's all about consciousness, it's living the highest level of consciousness. And regardless of the circumstances, I can show up in the best version of myself, regardless of what's happening out there.
How do you connect with yourself like this? So this is about connecting to yourself. How do you do that?
So I didn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this now because I want to give you an example.
Yeah.
Today has been one of the hardest days of my life. My husband had brain surgery.
Today.
And for every person kept saying to me, are you really doing this thing today with you? And I'm thinking like, of course I am. Because
we're honored. And how is he?
He's amazing. I mean, I got the word, I haven't spoken to him yet, but the reason I do that isn't because I had to be on here. I had to be on here for me, for my spirituality. Because I always have a saying, and my saying is, my husband actually taught me the saying 11 years ago. If you pray for rain, don't leave the house without your umbrella. Because you want to have that level of faith. So if I would have canceled last week, when I found out he was booked for surgery, which he decided last Friday, and he got booked on Saturday. If I would have canceled, I would have canceled out of fear. Oh my God, what happens on the day of the surgery if I get the word that he didn't do well? Am I going to be able to show up? And I'm like, dang girl, no, that isn't who you are. You will show up because you've done the work. You know that you can show up in the best version of yourself, regardless of the circumstances. And the reason I feel so strongly about that is with everything that's going on in the world, we all need to have that level of inner strength.
We do. But it's doing things like you just did, like understanding, like that's where the work comes in and pays off. I'm blown away and honored that you did this, but I see why you did. It's so clear to me why. That you talk about living in your truth, and I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's actually mind-blowing. But that's a matter of you.
Someone's saying they can't hear. Did you hit the mute?
No mute on my end. Is there any issue, Stacy, with volume, or is anyone else having that problem?
I've checked with everyone, and there just seems to be one person who's having problems, and I suggest them to go to Facebook. Everyone else can hear.
Okay. So the thing is you showing up tonight, it does create a different energy around the whole situation with the surgery, your belief system in the outcome, all of it. So, so it's a spiritual decision. Right. And you're just showing up and living in your truth. And, I think that again is having that connection with yourself.
Exactly.
We talk about, and what I always say is, you have to connect to your source. You have to, go find yourself, connect to your source. How do you teach people how do you, because I know in your work you do a lot of this, how do you teach people to connect and tap into their source? Because that's really, to me, the key to a lot.
Right. You know, there's so many different ways to get there. Like, this is just something where each person, again, I have a lot of different, I personally have a PDF that I love that I put together, and they can download it for free. It's on laviniaerrico.com. And that's something that I put together with a couple people that I've worked with, different life coaches and stuff. And
Okay.
that is one way, but you have to do it seriously. Like,
Yes.
I tell people, you have to take this, do it over 4 days, you know, unplug. Like, in order to get in touch with yourself, you have got to get still. You can't find yourself when you're doing this and doing that. Like, you have to find yourself in the stillness. So you have to be willing to literally unplug for a while and see what starts coming up, and start asking some very provoking questions. Why do I do this? Why am I interested? Like, this is what I do with the young people I mentor when they say, I want to be a da, 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 da. And I'm like, why do you want to be that? You know, and then when we start breaking it down, why they want to do something, and then we keep breaking it down more and breaking it down more, you start understanding a lot of things. Like, I just went through this with somebody who, I want to go to Colombia. And then we went through this whole thing of Colombia, why they want to go to Colombia. And, you know, the bottom line is like, the father went to Colombia, the grandfather went to Colombia. This person should no more be at Colombia than I should have been at Colombia. Like, this person should be maybe at NYU. Like, it's not, this person is not a Columbia person. Like, but it's the lineage. It's fitting into the certain box. And when we started like playing around and getting in touch with themselves and what really got them excited, and what really genuinely, when they close their eyes and think about like, what would make me jump out of bed, and if I could do what, like 9 times out of 10, they're not, that stuff would not be what they're doing today. You know, so it's like, no, like, so it's really about, you know, so much is again, it goes back to the family of origin. You know, it's like, what did the family value? So the family, you got a lot of accolades when you got straight A's. You got a lot of accolades when you were on the debate team. You got a lot, but you know, the family didn't really give you a lot of feedback for art or for music or for things like that. So before you know it, it was like, okay, I'm going to pivot into this because my father gives me so much recognition for this. But the little person really was desiring a more artistic life. That would have been more to explore every edge of who they are. And that way would have given them more breath, more joy, more excitement. But nope, I'm going to pivot into here to get this. So it's like getting in touch with those little things that made you pivot at a young age, that made you give up that dream, that made you to do something a different way, you know? And when you start getting the understanding of that, and I say when things start popping, then it's like you start getting excited. It's like, oh my God. Then the enthusiasm comes. So when you feel your body getting enthusiastic and excited, it's like, you know, you've hit that. You know, you hit something that needs to be awakened. You know,
and enthusiasm begets enthusiasm. But what are these, you know, you talk about blind spots and how for a lot of us, we have to really move through these blind spots. What do you mean by that? What are they exactly?
Well, blind spots are something that like you didn't realize was here. Like sometimes it's like the big pink elephant in the room, right? Like where, okay, again, like it could be that, like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. Like you declare that at 10 years old, right? I want to be a doctor. And then you're living it. You're studying your butt off. You're taking all the tests. You're getting trained for this and this and this. Now you go to med school, you do that, you get out, you get your internship, you're going. Now you're out, you're on, you get your job, and you're like, you realize every day you have to practically be craned off of that bed. because you really do not like what you're doing. Like your body is not telling you, I love this. Like I'm meant to do this. And then the blind spot is like, when you go back and do the work, the person that declared that at 10 just wanted to get the love and recognition from her parents. And that, to say doctor, all of a sudden the parents, they ran around the neighborhood and they ran every way. My daughter's going to be a doctor. My daughter, like that became the blind spot. It wasn't really coming through you and from you. There was something else that was putting you in that direction. And then
we can only be guided to that at a young age. If we can only tap in, I think a lot of the issues that so many of us have is, you know, we get guided, or subconscious, our guidance system, it sets us on a path that is not, as you would say, authentic. It's not an authentic path. And by the time we discover this and we wake up to this and we're miserable, we feel like we're too far in, whether it's a marriage or a job or an identity or what have you, you feel stuck.
So stuck.
And
that's
you
why
know,
I have to say, like, I love Dr. Shafali's work. Do you know her?
I don't.
So anybody out there who her work is just so brilliant, because it really is, she gives great guidance for parents. And her work is just about that. It's really for the parents to realize, like, we don't own our kids.
That's it.
Like, we don't own them. Like, we have to allow our kids to be brilliantly unique in who they are. We have to allow them to be brilliantly average at who they are. Like, we have to stop trying to form them and to be who you want them to be, so you could run around the country club or wherever else you're going to run around and feel so good because your kids are like, there's so much of that, you know.
There's so much of that. And I think one of the things that really drives people in the right direction in life, and this is something I really had to work on, Lavinia. I really had to work on this. This is having faith. And you talk about going from fear to faith, and that really spoke to me. Faith is actually not all that easy to just capture. I mean, it takes work to just go in that flow state of faith.
I mean, I work on that every day, Kellyanne, and I promise you, I do not have mastery on that. I don't think anybody really does, because we also have to have compassion for ourselves, because we're human. Like, we're human beings, and we are going to have human experiences, and fear is going to come in, but it's what you do with that fear. You know, I mean, trust me, even yesterday, like telling people, getting on the phone with some of my friends, who was I going to connect with the day before my husband's brain surgery? Yeah. Because there were some people that were in denial and kind of made me feel like, oh my God, girl, he's got it. He's strong. He's this. And I'm thinking, he's not getting his teeth cleaned. Like, let's be real here. Like, he's having brain surgery. He's having his skull cut open. Like, hello. But they were just trying to be positive, you know? And then you had the other people who were completely falling apart, because they were just in their own stuff. Like, they were so in there. Both of them is fear. It's just they're playing out in a different way. You know, but the people that could call you and be like, girl, this really does stink. And I am so sorry you got to go through it. And I'm so sorry your husband has to go through it. And then you shift and go, but you know what? He's had really great results in all the other things and the way he's healed. And let's just put it out to the universe that he's going to have that here. But that's real. And that's having compassion, real compassion for what the journey is. That doesn't mean you fall apart. And that doesn't mean you pretend it's nothing.
How does focusing on the moment help you?
Well, because for me, it's all about keeping it real. Like, I'm about keeping it real. I don't go into the fantasy, and I don't go into the fear. So it's like, you got to stay out of fantasy or fear and just what is. So for me, it's like, what is right now, everything's great. I'm here. I'm on with you. I'm good. I'm in a hotel. And I just stay right here. Right now is great, you know, because we don't know what is around the corner.
We don't.
We have no idea what is around that bend. And don't create stories around it. Like, don't, you know, and it's not easy. Like, it's not easy to do that, especially when you have a lot of, I mean, I hate using the word triggers, but when people have triggers from their past,
Yeah.
they get triggered. And then those triggers, like I always say, like, trauma creates drama. So when you have a lot of traumas that you've had, and we've all had traumas, if you don't work on those traumas, do the work, go some therapy, get a life coach, do some spiritual work. If you don't work on those, you will have a life of trauma, of drama.
Bottom line, I've been there. I've been in crazy town. I've been in the crazy town before I started really working on myself, and there is so much more work to do. So when you say working on yourself, that's what you mean. You mean getting a life coach, you know, finding a spiritual leader, or finding someone.
Or even like a great book. Like, there's some great stuff online. I think Michael Singer has an amazing online course that it's not that expensive. I think it's like $300. I think that his course is phenomenal, you know, because not everybody can afford to have a life coach.
No.
Everybody can do some work on themselves. Like, and make it a priority, because that is the most important thing you have.
It is, by far.
It's the mindset, you know, because the bottom line is, this is what my spiritual teacher teaches, Dr. Levy, and I love it. And it's so simple. Your thoughts, your words, your feelings, your actions, and your attitude creates your life. That's it. That's what creates your life.
And I want everyone to really key into what she just said, because I have been seeing patients, well over 20 years. And I am telling you, you put together algorithms. When you've done this for so long, you start to put together nets and weaves of what works, where the outcomes are positive, where they take a turn. All of those things that she just named, which I'd love if you can put it in the box, Stacey. Can you repeat those one more time? Because that's the plan.
It's your thoughts. And when I work with people, I say to them, I want you to take the first 3 months and just start taking some control of your thoughts. I mean, look, I don't know what they say, there's something like 60,000 thoughts in a day. And something like all but 10% are yesterday's thoughts, and they're somewhat negative. They're fear-based. So, you know, if you start noticing, and I have this little trick that works for me, that I came up with like 5 or 6 years ago. And when a negative thought comes in, I go like this: cancel.
Yep.
And I just cancel it, because you want to get that out as quickly as possible. Because
Red line, cancel.
Yes, because if not, it starts a cycle. And then you can't get that out. It's like you start obsessing with it. So I just, as soon as a thought comes in, like even today I used cancel. As soon as a thought came in, it was like, I was waiting to hear from the hospital, because of course it's COVID and I can't get into the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
It's everything. It's like layers. It just keeps going layers. You know, I'm in a hotel that I would never be staying at, but all the good hotels are completely closed.
The whole thing.
I mean, it's like one thing now, you can't fly. We had to drive up. Like it was just, it's all good. And you know what? It's all really good. It's okay, you know? But like today, my mind went for a second down to like, I hope everything's fine. And then I went, cancel, just cancel that. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. Like I just wanted that out quickly. So you really do have to take, and then your words. I mean, your words are so powerful, you know, like if you're going to be, when I hear young people, I'm going to try. No, we don't try. And I know some people say, well, trying is at least you're trying. You can think that like, but you have to do, you just have to feel like I'm going to do it. Like, and your words, like, if you're going to start complaining, shift that, because that is a vibration you don't want around you.
And no one cares. I've got news for you. When you start going on like that, I'm sorry, no one cares. I hate to say that, and I don't mean to sound negative, but that's not going to attract people in your net to help you bring you to a different place or different consciousness. It doesn't work.
Like, I don't know if it's like a Jersey word, but we call it a nyanya.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like he's being such a nyanya.
Yes.
It's like, stop being a nyanya, like shift it. People just shift it. Like anytime you're going to go to complain, like no need to complain, or you're going to gossip. Like those are the things we have to take control of. Like we have to.
Those two things, complaining and gossiping. Guys, we call it, in Chinese medicine, it's called an evil tongue.
Yes.
I mean, it does not serve at all, and it spirals. I always think in terms of any of your cells, and I used to do a lot of examination of the biology inside and examine the biology that's inside on the outside and seeing how things affect the cells. And as I always said, the things that affect the cells most positively is gratitude and serving. So just think of anything that's the opposite of that. Taking life force away from people by going on and on, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in your cellular mechanism. And so
and if you go a little deeper, like as you're going to go say something negative about somebody, like stop for a second and say, okay, what's going on with me?
It's exactly what.
Because it is all about you. Like when you're in a good place, when you're good and your vibration's high and you're moving and shaking and life is like you're flowing in the glow and you're flowing aligned with the universe, you don't want to start trashing somebody. So then it's like, okay, what's going on with me? And then you start realizing, oh, I'm a little bit insecure about this, or, oh, I'm not feeling so good about that. And then you start becoming awakened and aware. That's another little blind spot that I talk about. You start realizing, oh, I see when I'm not feeling good about myself and I'm feeling not pretty enough, or I'm whatever you're feeling, whatever your story is, that's when I tend to get a little mean and gossiping. Not so nice. So it's like when you start connecting to those things, all of a sudden you start becoming conscious and aware.
You do. And I think that it's important to have friends call you out on things and have that, what I call, that orbit of friends around you. The orbit of friends around you that you can really, what I would say, they're your foxhole friends. They're friends that you'd be in a foxhole with. And it's really important who is around you. I think that's one of the most important things for yourselves, for your mind, for your life. And I love what you say, because this was an important delineation for me, one that caught me off guard, Lavinia. I did not understand this until I had to learn it the hard way. But as you're going on in life and as you're building and growing, you have agenda friends, and then you have forever friends, as you call them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this is really important, I think, for anyone in business, anyone who's out there and they're doing different things in life. How do you identify the agenda friends versus the forever friends? And, we're going to have agenda friends. We are. And that whole agenda, that was always painful for me. This is the part of life. And I think I told you this when we had our conversation last time, that this is a painful thing for me, the people shedding and understanding that sometimes, people come and people go, so how do you examine all of this in your life, and how does it play into you really saying, what, these are the people I want around me, and I've got to put these people in this orbit and these people in this orbit, and identify that.
Everything ends and begins with you. Like we are the ones that we're in control of that. So again, the more clarity that we have, so each area, this is what I learned, because again, I did have all these agenda ships. And it was self-serving for all of us, especially when I was building Equinox. Because, we were I had all the health and beauty editors, and we were all doing and going, and then these people and the PR people and and you're invited to this party, and we're all tragically hip together, and that's kind of how it is when you're young. You're all kind of doing that and moving, shaking and doing it. And that's what happened. That was part of my aha moment of wait a minute, I didn't take time over those last 20 years to really foster and connect with really meaningful relationships. That's what also made me so sad. It's I was wow, I didn't connect on that level with some of the people. A lot of it had to do with time, and I'm building my business. I have a son. I'm moving and shaking. I'm in a relationship that one week is on, the next week getting, it was a lot,
It is.
That's what I realized after that is what, I want to go back and I want to connect with people who I can, what I say now is the people I could take the mask off with.
Yeah.
Really take the mask off with. I could share my heart. I can be vulnerable. I could be, now also, if they're available to do that back. Because that's another thing that I've learned is that, you know, I'm that girl. Like, I'm the emotional girl. I'm the girl that likes to get, I mean, you know, like one conversation, I'm like, I'm that person. Like,
Oh, we got into it right away. Like,
right.
you know, we learned so much about each other right from the get-go.
I mean, we were obviously doing it for this, but on the other hand, like, I don't like, I'm not like that emotional, whatever, with everybody, like on the street. I'm not going to start sharing like that. I mean, it was for a purpose, but I love depth. Like, I'm the girl that loves depth. I don't like to, I always say, I'm not swimming in the shallow water. I don't want to sit around and talk about lipstick and Botox or whatever. I'm not that girl. Like, if you want to talk about working on yourself and bigger things and spirituality and how we transform and how we all connect together and how we can all collectively connect with each other and elevate each other up, I'm your girl. But not everybody wants to do that. Like, you know, not everybody can do that. And that's okay, because in the beginning, when I started this journey, I would like get a little pissed off at people. Like, why can't they just go deeper with me? Like, I got into my self-righteousness of like, they can't do that. And then finally I had to say, like, okay, Lavinia, get off of your little spiritual horse and just realize that you can still have fun with people and talk about lipstick and Botox. Like, it's okay. Like, everything doesn't have to be so deep. And so I had to then learn how to have people that I had different experiences with. I had different levels of intimacy. Not everybody has that level of intimacy, is working on themselves in that way, but I love them. Like, I still love them. I can love them and appreciate them for who they are, you know? And that's like the key is like, you have to have boundaries. Like, because you're managing your own heart. Like, I couldn't go and have the conversation with the people about my husband if in a way where it's so intimate and I'm being so vulnerable, and then they're going to not be able to connect that way, you know, then I have to make sure that the people that I'm going to go that vulnerable with, that they can meet you, that they have the capability. Because in the past, what I did is I tried to do that with everyone that I loved. Because just because you love somebody so much, doesn't mean that they're capable of having those deep, intimate conversations.
And it's something that you have, and it's something that you get a feel for after a while. And a lot of this has to do with, you know, you got a lot of grit, girl. You do. You have grit. You have grit in everything, and how you attack everything, and how you present yourself, and it's grit. And I love that word. I used it all the time, and I hear you use it all the time in your work. And so tell us a little bit about grit and how that, because there is a difference in the way people approach, you know, the world or their work or life or their home. And I see it and I can spot it now, that grit. And it's so very interesting.
You know, it's interesting because I look at some people who are aggressive and they think they have grit. And I'm thinking, no, you have aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. There is a difference between being aggressive and having grit. You know, grit has a space that it's a space that allows things. It's like you're working hard, you're working smart, you're awake. You're not afraid of work. You're not afraid of getting your hands dirty. You're not afraid of putting on a lot of different hats. You are understanding that how to inspire people, how to motivate people. You're not sitting there hitting them. You're not pushing them. You're not like, grit has an energy that isn't aggressiveness and it isn't force. Because when you're aggressive and you're forcing, at some point, that's not sustainable. You know, that's like, even with the hustle, like sometimes I feel like hustle has a little too much force and too much aggressiveness.
Yes.
You know, and I think I had that, trust me, my 20s, 30s, and 40s, like I had that. And that was even part of like the release is like, because think about it. If I have a little crystal here that I play with, but if we're going to hold this as tight as I can and tight as I can, at some point it's got to give. It just has to give, you know, but if I'm going to hold it gently and gently massage it and gently knead it and gently this, I could probably do that forever. That's what grit is. Grit is like you're focused, you realize what you have to do, but it's done in this more gentle, more organic, more flowing, more collaborative, like we're collaborating with other people. It isn't like, grit has that, whereas aggressiveness and force, it's sometimes like, it's very much one person wins and one person loses.
It feels tight. It feels like a tight energy. Like
it's rigid. It's tight. It's
flow.
It's like, you know, women flow, men have goals. You know, like men just have goals. They have goals, they have goals, they have goals. And they hit their goal, they're like, and they hit their goal and like, but women, like, we flow. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think the business, the women archetype is so powerful, because it's like the river that just keeps flowing. It flows, and you work hard and it goes and it just, you know, it's not this rigid, tight competitiveness, like, you know, that tires people out, man. Like you burn out in that. Like that is like guaranteed stress and burnout.
And you burn out everyone else around you.
Everyone. You are going to burn everybody out. Like there's no flow in there. There's no grow. There's no glow. There's no like breath of like, there's no, we're all in this together. Your ideas feed my ideas. And before you know it, we're popping and things are like, oh my God, this is even better than I thought it would ever be, because there's room for people to really collaborate together and
feels so good. I just know that when I'm in that, it feels so good. One of the things that you say, like we're speaking again about entrepreneurship a little bit. I love that you say this, Lavinia. You talk about a wishful desire versus a burning desire. And I have seen this over and over and over again in people and through my career and in my life. There's such a big difference, because the burning desire piece, I think, is essential. But talk a little bit about the difference of those so people can start to learn to recognize that in themselves.
Well, I see that a lot of times with young entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, like, I read a lot of business plans. I meet with a lot of young people. I like investing in especially wellness, health, even a little bit of beauty. But I invest in the entrepreneur. Like, that's who I'm investing in. Because yes, the product, I already know I'm not going to do something if the product doesn't meet the criteria that I want. And if I don't feel it's actually can be good, you know, like it can actually show up in a place that people really need it. And it's going to be good for whatever the white space is that we're bringing it to. But most entrepreneurs I meet, they have that wishful desire to be an entrepreneur. They don't have a burning desire, because when you have a burning desire, like you are busting your butt, like you are working, like you are kicking it. Like there's no stopping you. Like you are just, you know, you're out there, you're doing, you know, I don't care if you have 2 jobs, you're figuring it out. Like you are just, you're in it, you're going, you are not unstoppable.
You're like a bumper car, like Cher says. You bump into things, and if you bump into things, you know, you just back up and you find a different path, and you just don't.
And that's what the burning desire is. That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like. But most of these people come in with this. First of all, it's very cool these days to be an entrepreneur. Nobody wants to graduate college and say, "Oh, I'm going to get into corporate America," even though, to be honest, the first 5 years is actually really great. Like you get some of the best training. Like that's where they actually, human resources involved. They have all kinds of development programs, because you don't have that in entrepreneur. Like, you know, and if you're not a person who is going to figure it out, like you can figure it out, but you have to be so resourceful. You have to have a pair of, you know what, the size of like watermelons to make that happen. Cause you've got to knock on doors. You've got to like say to people, hey, like, I just want to be around you. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll stuff envelopes if I have to, because I want to learn from you. You know, I love, like, I always say, like, the wishful entrepreneurs always come up and they'll be like, oh, Lavinia, can I pick your brain?
Don't ever say that, by the way, guys.
Like, can I have your time and pick your brain? I'm thinking to myself, like, but the ones that really have that burning desire, they hear me speak, that whatever, they're like, Lavinia, I'll come to your workshops. I'll work your workshops. I'll do your social media for free because I just want to be like, that's a person with a burning desire, you know, like, how can I serve you so that I can serve me, but not like, how can you serve me, Lavinia? Oh, like, you know, it's like, it's a mindset. It's that same mindset again. You know,
it is passive. It's a very different mindset. And, you know, it's amazing. And when you are the way you are and your mind is the way yours is, Lavinia, you do all kind of crazy things in life that are so beyond the realm for so many. I mean, because you were even a rockette. You were a rockette. How did that happen? You were a rockette.
The truth is, I was at USC, and the Rockettes were coming to LA. They were doing the Christmas show in LA. And again, that's just Lavinia. I'm like, you know what? I'd love to be a Rockette. I went to the audition and I got the show.
That's a burning desire. And you know what, this has been so amazing, so lovely. And I could just talk to you forever. We've already gone a little over time, and I would love to ask you for the courtesy. And, you know, I appreciate all your contributions. You're always contributing, you know, giving back, and it's so beautiful. Would you please honor us with ending with a little meditation? And I want to dedicate this meditation to your husband, and hoping that he has the ultimate healing, speedy recovery, and we'll all send our love. But if you would end with a meditation, we would love that.
Okay, good. Let's just do a couple breaths. I would say we're going to take 3 big deep breaths in, and just inhale. We're going to inhale love, and then just hold that vibration, smile, see every single cell in your body smiling, and see it filled with love. Because really, love heals. So see that love, and just send it out. Just fill it up yourself, heal yourself, and really, you know what? Just send it out to your family, to everyone, my husband, and just see love floating all over your city, all over your state, all over the country, all over the world. So let's just do 3 big breaths in. We're going to take 5 seconds in of love. And then when you exhale, just make a sound and go, ha, and exhale joy. So inhale love and exhale joy. Okay, so inhale. Hold your breath. Love. Exhale joy. Inhale love. Hold your breath and smile. Exhale joy. Last one in. Inhale love. Hold your breath. Exhale joy. Just feel your body being calm, filled with joy, filled with love. Just open your eyes slowly.
And boy, does that feel good.
Good.
That is not a state that any of us want to leave. We don't want to leave you either. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Please tell us, Lavinia, where can we get more of you?
LaviniaErrico.com, and from there, you can get onto my Instagram at Lavinia Joy. And thank you so much, Kellyanne. I really enjoyed today. It kept me so grounded. It kept me anchored. And it really, at the end, like you say, when you serve, because that's what today is for me. It's about serving and showing up to serve others. And when you serve others, you actually feel so much better. So I'm so appreciative that I even was able to have this experience today. On this.
I received that and right back at you. We love you. Best to you, best to your family. We look forward to more conversations, having you on some panels. We've really enjoyed this. And this is another episode of Doctor's Night Out. We are concluding this evening, hoping you join us next week. We have an unbelievable panel next Wednesday night. If you want motivation, then you are going to hear some stories that are going to absolutely blow your mind. You're really going to enjoy this one. And next Thursday, we have spiritual healing with Pastor Bernard. Pastor has a very large congregation, and he is one of the most beautiful humans I've ever met. And I cannot wait for you to tap into some of his soulful messages. So until then, we're signing out with all the love and all the grace. Until next time, be well.